Hey everybody, Easy Amateur Radio here, and today I'm back with another CB radio video. So in 2025, you're looking to buy a new CB radio. What are you looking for? Well, we're going to look at all three of these models, compare them, and figure out what exactly are you looking for with CB radios. Stay tuned. Okay, so what we have here is the President Andy 2 FCC. Now, this radio is made by President, and it's the most modern radio we have today to look at. Now, if you're looking for a compact radio, I really like the size of this one. You know, it's about 5 inches across and roughly 6 inches long. Some key things I want to highlight with this radio and any new radio that you're purchasing. The automatic squelch level is a good thing to have. That way you don't have to set your squelch. It's going to pick up the background noise that you're hearing and automatically set the squelch. And if it picks up a burst, like a signal coming in or something, it might let it in, or you can manually set it. Now, I've been seeing this more and more. Modern radios will have this little port right here on the front, somewhere on the port. And what that is a USB port to charge your cell phone or any other USB chargeable device. Now, like a lot of radios, this radio does have a noise blanker. You can see it comes on over there. This radio also has a weather alert, which is pretty handy. You can go through and select your weather. So anytime you see a WX on any CB radio, that's going to be your weather. Now here are your emergency channels. Channel 9, 19. 9 used to be where emergency responders listen to. Not so much anymore. 19 is basically your default channel, what everybody listens to. And you're more likely to find somebody on 19 than anything else. And a Vox setting. Now this radio also offers memory channels and things like that outside of the 40 channels that you're regularly allocated with CB radio. And an interesting fact about this radio that I find pretty neat is that it accepts 12 and 24 volts. So pretty universal. This radio also has talkback, which in a lot of modern radios you see, and that's where you can monitor and hear yourself through the speaker as you talk. Big fan of that. I do want to give two major highlights to this radio is the large channel display and the 4-pin standard CB radio connector. A lot of radios today won't use this 4-pin. They'll use a proprietary connector, and this is something I always advise people to look out for so they can get kind of universal mics for this radio. And then two things I want to talk that's negative to this radio in particular, and something you might want to look at, is the channel selector is a button, not a knob. Some people are not a fan of that. I particularly like a knob. I would like to see the volume controlled right here and the channel over here. And then another thing that I want to take points away from this radio, and something you may want to look out for, you don't have to, is in the back. The power connector right here is not unpluggable or universal or anything like that. So you have just a power connector right here, and then a good heat sink, which is pretty neat. A lot of modern radios do come with that. And then you can see right here your external ports for speakers and a PA system. So this is the President Andy. Nice, really small radio. If you're looking for new CB radios, this might be something to consider. Let's move on to the next choice. Now what you're looking at right here is a Cobra 29 LTD Classic. This is a very available CB radio that you can pick up at a lot of truck stops across the nation. You can also pick them up at Corncob CB Shop on eBay. The link will be in the description, but that's not really important to this video, but we do sell used radios there. So this is a standard CB radio. This is probably the most common CB radio on the market anywhere. I am active in CB radio every day, not because I use it as a hobby, but because I use it as a tool managing truck drivers and things like that. And I see more Cobra 29s than any other type of radio being in and out of trucks. Now, I like this radio because it's not menu driven. Everything you need is right here on the front. So here we have a an RF meter, which shows you how strong the signal is coming in, an SWR meter to make sure that your antenna is matched properly, and then a calibration setting to set that where you can make sure your SWR, or your standing wave ratio, is correct. This radio also has a noise balancer and an automatic noise leveler, which is going to help with all the static and background noise that you hear, but it does not have an automatic squelch. CB and PA, I wish these radios did not have the PA option, because I cannot tell you how many people have brought their radio to me saying that it's broke, it's not transmitting, and it's in the PA option. So always make sure it's on the CB option. Bright and dim, 2 different settings. Big fan of that. And then emergency channel 9. On some newer Cobras that are out now, they do have this is a 3-pin switch, and they do have an automatic 19, which I'm a fan of because a lot of my crews stay on channel 33, so I can just click it back and forth from 33 to 19. But on this radio, you can see it's just channel 1. And then right here, we talked about it with the other radio, standard 4-pin CB radio, microphone connector. Big fan of that. Cobra kind of, I guess, introduced this 4-pin connector, and it's been a standard over many years because there are so many Cobras made. You have a manual volume and squelch knob, the small one being your volume, and your on and off, and then your squelch. Dynamic, which is your variable mic gain. It's easy to get to. I do like this about this radio. This is the universal standard, like I mentioned. A controllable RF gain. Another thing that I like, one of my trucks that I'm in pretty often is kind of noisy, so I will turn my RF gain a little bit up and my squelch a little bit up, and that kind of helps me out. And just in case you haven't seen the video, Cobra 29 basics, your squelch is gonna shut off how close somebody has to be for you to hear them, and your RF gain is going to be how far off they are to hear them. So you're going to kind of stay on these two and kind of tune them in together, basically, to what you like. Your delta tune, I don't think that's really necessary in 2025 unless you're doing some serious skip shooting with one of these radios, long distance, because a lot of CB radios are pretty stable. This is made to tune in signals that are a little bit off frequency, and your SWR calibration, that's going to be used in unison with that switch right there. But these are removed off of some Cobra radios, and that's the Cobra 25, which is smaller than this radio, and kind of my recommendation for beginner CB radios. But take these away, and you have a Cobra 25, or really a Cobra 21 if you're looking for an older, smaller radio. So I really suggest that. But the size on a Cobra 29 is standard, but it is a kind of a negative to this radio. One of the few negatives that I have for this radio, and another negative, which is just a pet peeve of mine, I'd like to see Cobra swap this out to like a white LED and white meter lights to kind of make it match, give it a little bit more higher quality feel. But if I had to guess, there are millions of these radios on the market. This radio is used, so it does have its own markings and stuff. You see somebody took a Sharpie and colored the back, whatever. But this radio does have a universal power cord in the back. So that's a plus on this radio that the President Andy did not have. This model was made in China. I will have some more videos made about Cobras and where they're made, so look for those coming out. But this is a very classic CB radio, and a standard go-to pick for people who are new in CB radio. Now, the last radio I have is a chassis that is my favorite, but not necessarily my favorite Galaxy model. So this radio is a Galaxy DX979. This is going to be a little bit more advanced for some beginners out there. It's going to have more options, but a smaller package nonetheless. If you're looking to start out a radio, you want to start out with a good radio. You might want to shoot a little skip, do some long distance stuff, put up a really good antenna, or you want to have a loud radio in the mobile. Galaxy makes some pretty nice stuff. They have an extremely limited selection in 2025. This is a used radio. You can find used radios on the used market on places like QRZ and eBay very well. But let's talk about what this radio has going for it. First things first about this radio, it does have a backlit display. We'll go ahead and beef that up. You can kind of see the backlit display. You can really see it down there on the Galaxy logo. Starting at the top, we have a variable talkback control, including an off switch. I mentioned talkback earlier. This is the kind of, you can hear yourselves talking through the radio's internal speaker. A lot of people like this to make sure that there's radios working and things like that. A clarifier. Now, this is important. This is going to be your Delta tune on your Cobras. But what this is you can tune in stations that are a little bit off frequency. I think this radio needs to have this, unlike the Cobra 29, because of what it has over here. We'll talk about that in a minute. Here's your SWR. Galaxy has an automatic SWR meter, so you do not have a calibration switch for that. In the middle selection, you have your modulation. That's going to show how much modulation you have when you're talking on this meter, and then and then a power output switch on the bottom, and that's going to show you how much power you're doing. Why does this radio have that? Because it has a variable power knob. So right here up top, you have noise blanker and A&L. That's going to be you're still on your CB settings. The middle pin is just, you're turning that off. You're going to be on your CB channels, and then your bottom one is a PA. Not many people have PAs. I kind of think the PA switch, the public address switch, is kind of not needed in 2025. And then this switch right here is really important. What makes this radio stand apart from the other radios is that it has sideband. So it has upper sideband, your AM setting, and your lower sideband. Think of your signal as all three lanes going down the interstate. And if you just focus on the upper side of it and the lower side of it, that is going to be upper and lower sideband. It's going to be a little bit more efficient. You're not going to have such a wide signal, and you can get a little bit further with a stock radio, but you can only talk to other radios that have sideband and stuff like that. Channel 38, lower sideband, 37, 36, 39, and 40 are kind of the common channels you'll find people with sideband. Universal Galaxy Cobra connector, big plus for this radio. This is something you want to watch out for. You want to make sure you have that. And then right here you have your squelch knob on the outer collar. The inner collar is going to be your volume control. The outer collar is your RF gain. It just says RF right there, but that is your RF gain. The inner is your mic gain, or your dynamic if you're used to using Cobra radios. And then this switch right here, the outer collar is going to be variable power, so you can turn your power output all the way up, somewhere in the middle, or all the way down. And then the inner collar is going to be your light dimmer. You can see all the lights dimmed out. We'll go back up. So this is a sideband radio. You'll see that on the used market, or if you're ever wondering what this USB or LSB is, it's not for a charging device. It is for the modes of operation. Big pluses I like about Galaxy is I like the big meters. I'm a big fan of the big square meters. Really like that. This, and another plus for this radio is that it is compact. It is smaller than the Cobra 29, but a little bit larger than the Cobra 25. And then it just looks cleaner, sleeker, nicer radio, a little bit more power output. We'll flip it around to the back. Universal power connector, PA, external speaker, and an option for a frequency counter. Big fan of that. But yeah, Galaxy radios are pretty good. If you're new to CB radio, you're looking at getting a more advanced radio, this might be the way to go. Let's get them all back together and take a final look. Well, guys, there you have it. We have the Cobra 29 LTD Classic, a classic CB radio that you can find almost at any truck stop. It looks good, it works, it's reliable. On top of that, we talked about the Galaxy DX 979, the 979 radio backlit display, sideband, and various other options and controls. And then we also talked about the President radio up top, a 12 and 24 volt radio, an awesome little radio with a lot of modern features. Now, obviously, I want to caveat this with there are more types of CB radios out there, but this video will basically get you started in what to look for when purchasing your new CB Radio 73.